We are headed today to a location through the red sands of the Utah desert. We were told that you needed a four-wheel drive vehicle to get in here, so we were always skeptical that we would make it, but we did. So let's start our adventure. Welcome everyone to Weekend Escapades. Today we are in Babylon, Utah, and we are going to go find the mine that created this town of Babylon. One of the theory about the name of Babylon is that many workers came from Europe and spoke many languages, similar to when the biblical Tower of Babylon was destroyed. So we found the first location on the way up as we're walking here. This looks like it was a mine and that they filled it in. Take a look a little closer. It does have a marker, a metal marker on the rock, and it does go in there quite a ways. It looks like it was filled in. Okay, so maybe the last one was filled in, it looks like it, or maybe it was just an air shaft to go down, but here is the main mine here in Babylon where they were pulling this ore out. A lot of the ore went to one of the places here where they took care of the ore, and also the Silver Reef, which is just a little ways away. You can still see the old pilings, I guess you will, the heavy timber that holds up the parts of the mine where they were doing the digging. See if we can get a little further back. So you can see far back in there, it turns and goes to the right, so we can't get in there, of course, because there's metal. But awesome mine right here. So there's one of the markers. This is another entrance to that mine, and they backfilled this one in because it was a much bigger hole, and you can see all across the top it's not sealed up, not natural. Filled, and it does go in quite a ways there. So that's what they did. In this whole area right here, it was mine, and then right over there is where that entrance to the mine is, where it's barred up. Now Babylon, Utah lives just off the I-15, east of the I-15, through Leeds. And there is a road that comes out here, and you'll see it is a single lane road and very steep, and four-wheel drive definitely necessary, and a lot of wildlife. We came across this little turtle out in the desert. Around 50 people lived in the community of Babylon, and they abandoned this location during the mining days due to the fact that the Virgin River would flood and they were not able to get into town to get their supplies. Now behind me, you'll see that's the entrance to Babylon Ghost Town. And right there between those mountains, it looks like it was just literally cut out of that mountain of rock, I guess, or whatever you want to call it. I don't call it a mountain, but definitely a ledge of rock. Right about there, as you can see, it's cut through. We're going to walk through there and find Babylon. So on up the trail, it is supposed to be 106 today. Right now, we're sitting on about 95. Sunscreened up with a sun hat and just trekking on through the desert. You gotta watch for those rattlers. You know, I'm not gonna jinx myself, but we haven't seen one yet. But we've had people send us pictures of snakes that were definitely in the area where we've been, but haven't seen or heard one of them. So let's just keep our fingers crossed that that doesn't happen. Now here's your petroglyphs that are along the way. Those are about 20, 30 feet high up on the rocks. And you can climb on up there, but I'd prefer to stay in the shade today. But this is definitely petroglyphs. Some people have added a few of their initials, but still petroglyphs that live right here on the side of that rock. That's a good hike in here. There's a lot of rock. So it's but it's still a good path, but you just got to watch your step. But this is an amazing canyon. Now why somebody chose to build out here as well. So not only is there an old mining community here of Babylon, but there is a more modern home that is said to be built in the 1980s, and it was taken out by fire once. They started construction again, and it caught fire again. And they say that the reasoning was is that the spirits that live on this land would not allow that gentleman to complete his house. And now they say it is actually haunted. Locals say that as well. But I'm sure during the day it's not going to feel that way. We're just going to investigate as soon as we get close to that property. This is what's remaining of the home that was built here, or started to be built, the foundation, in the 1980s by John Vaught, I believe is the name. And we'll get a little bit of information on that.
So John Vaught was a U.S. Senate member, and he decided that he was going to take his family and retire here in Leeds. And that was a rendering of the home he was going to build here on this foundation. And this is all that is left here in Leeds, Utah. So they decided, or John Vaught decided, to buy this property where the mill existed and build his home right next to the Stormont Mine District. And this is what is left of that area.
We'll show you around this building, and right behind it over there is the remains of the old area where they used to take all of the ore. And that's the mining area right there, the old building. But this one was 1980s. Some people said that there was some satanic, at one time, writings in here, and people were building bonfires and those things on the ground. And I can see where that maybe happened, but I don't have any proof of that, but people say it is haunted. And again, I apologize if there's any graffiti, because it's hard to block out everything that's on these walls. This is going up to the top of the home. That would have been the downstairs, like a multi-level home that they were building here. It was a mansion, and I'll show you the drawings, the renderings of what this mansion was supposed to look like when it was finished.
And here's a drawing of the mansion that he was going to build here. You can see the stonework that's drawn in the front matches the property that's here now.
Now this property was built, all the foundation was built once, and then it was hit by fire. And then the second time, they started building it again, and it was hit by fire a second time. So they say that this was cursed. I'm gonna walk up there and take a look. You can see the mansion down here. We'll finish up walking through the bottom half of that. But it was built right here when John Vaught bought this property. He said, I'm gonna build here and build this big epic mansion. And it's right here where, of course, they took care of all the ore, all the mining material from the mines that that we saw earlier when we first came in. That's about a mile from here, mile and a half from here, in those hills. So let's go take a look up there and inside that. Very steep. This is an area where a lot of people come up and they do the side-by-sides and Jeeps and four-wheel drives. A lot of fun, but really dry and hot out here. It's over 100 right now, about 101. And here's what's left of the old mining building. My throat's getting dry being out here in the heat. And just a couple of remaining walls. You can see that these are very old, oldest piece on the property. And again, it was a finished building. As you can see, the cement finishing on there where people have sketched their names. And just that doorway, that archway, looking out into the desert. This is the far corner of what would be the mansion. You can see the way it was built. I'm sure that was going to be some big bay windows looking out over the property. And getting bit by some nasty desert flies that are just looking for water. Take a look around this other side. Yeah, I made my way down a slippery slope to the bottom of this foundation of this home. I put some epic stone walls to hide that cement. Now it was said when it burnt down that they came in and they removed all of the burnt timber and put the building up again. And then of course when it burnt down again, I don't think they were looking for a third time's a charm, because that would get fairly expensive. But this was a massive building, just massive. Look at that major piece of steel going across there as support. We're going to go on through this rockway door. Old, looks like a door that you'd find, you know, in the old mining area, but they built it to look that way because, again, it was built on an area where the old mining town existed of Babylon.
Now, there's not much left here of Babylon, but here's an original picture of the community. Again, there were about 50 people that mined here, and there's just a couple of old buildings left, not much to even show. It was built right here on the Virgin River, and that's where it got its beauty and the location for John Vaught's home. And the drive going out was no better than the one going in, dusty and bumpy. What a great location. Nice to find all of this still existing here in Babylon, Utah.
Thank you for joining us today in Babylon, Utah. This is what's left of the old mansion that was built here in the 1980s, and also the old mine that existed here in the 1800s. Until our next adventure, goodbye from Weekend Escapades.